This is what I might call, and I told you so, first level, first degree, first example. I said a while ago in my earlier post that what we're not paying attention to in the Middle East is the tension between Sunni and Shi'a. And we in the West are really caught up in things like economics, social tension, class warfare. So we look at Saudi Arabia and we see problems of the rich, super rich royal family and that kind of things. And we look at Iran and we say, oh, well, the people are more engaged politically or something like that. And all those perceptions are entirely Western contrived. But that's the standards we see. But we have to understand again that the Middle East doesn't see things this way. Muslim Arabs see things historically and theologically. They see, for them, history is future. The way things were in the past with the caliphates is the future, and that one day the caliphates will again take over, and one day, just before the end, the caliphates, the caliphate will be reestablished, and then Allah. And so they're seeing things historically, and because of that, because that's their framework, what matters more is how the caliphate is to be constructed, how society is to be refined, how it's supposed to ultimately fall in line under Allah. And so they see it far more socio-politically as part of their religion. And so for Sunni to see it one way and Shia to see it another way is entirely different. These don't get along. And they haven't historically since the founding of Islam. Back in the 630s when the first war between the two broke out, and they've spun off from one another. So as a bit of review, the Shia are in control of Iran, of course, which is 98% Shia. Even though they're Persians and there's other heritage there, they've been largely... they have been Shia for a while. The Sassanid Empire was there and they were Shia, so it's been historic. And then the Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Middle East is Sunni. So places like Iraq, which is 60% Shia, important to know, 40% Sunni. Syria, which has a large population of Shia, the Alawite regime under Bashar al-Assad, is Shia and pro-Ayatollah. Now there's differences, I realize, in Shia theology, whether or not you believe the Ayatollah is a capital A Ayatollah, long story, won't get into that, but I realize there's distinctions there. But Hezbollah, which is the militant wing of Iran, and the Iranian Royal Guard, which is now sweeping through Iraq and into eastern Syria. So in other words, what's being called now the Shia Crescent, which is accurate, I think that the historic grounds to which Muslims have always wanted and been fighting for is that Fertile Crescent, what ISIS calls the Levant, ISIL, the Levant, Islamic State in the Levant. That Levant region is historically the home of the Caliphate. And Shia and Sunni have been fighting for it. Now, Sunni have dominated it for centuries. The Shia finally, with Iran, have a modern state capable of taking that region over for the first time, really. And so, here's the I told you so. What's happening now as the ISIS is collapsing, and I said this a while back, I said, ISIS is not the problem. I mean, it is. I don't mean to downgrade or overlook the evil that ISIS is, but historically speaking, and in a broad sense, that's not the issue. ISIS is going to go in and create problems, but the vacuum they create when the invading forces move in are going to create a tension that's going to lead to far greater problems than what ISIS ever created. And so as ISIS collapses in eastern Syria, Hezbollah already there, Iran now having moved, if you're looking from a map this way, Iran having moved into Iraq through the efforts to take out ISIS, and now moving into Syria is going to create this connection, this bridge from Iran all the way through to, the Mediterranean. Now, Lebanon stands in the way, and I don't know how that's going to go at all. But the point is that the vacuum created by ISIS is drawing Iran further and further into the Fertile Crescent, and Saudi Arabia is rightfully nervous. Now, this president has decided to take the side of Saudi Arabia. Maybe the smart thing is not to take any sides. And I don't... foreign policy, that's a whole other ball of wax. But the point is that the real problem coming forward is this tension between Sunni and Shia. Sunni largely supporting the great power in the Middle East is Saudi Arabia, and the Shia behind Iran is creating at this point what looks to be like a terrible tension, either a Cold War, as I saw this morning in the paper, or whether it's going to be a hot war between the two. But if history is future for Arabic Muslims, then the history, which is the war between Sunni and Shia, is the future. And pay attention to this. Don't get sidelined and don't get sidetracked by victories over ISIS. It's good, But that sets up a whole nother problem coming forward. And, how we handle that's an entirely different story. It's very complicated, whether you back one side or the other. I'm not sure, but be ready for the fact that this is just the first stage in a very complex, large-scale conflict between Sunni and Shia.